All right. I will call the meeting to order. Roll call attendance. Margaret, you want to do the roll call attendance?
Yes. Bonnie?
Here.
Scott?
Here.
Robert?
Here.
Margaret? Here. Diane? Absent. Mike? Mike, can you hear us?
Mike is on Zoom, I think. Is he the only one on Zoom?
I can see that Mike is here. Mike, can you hear us?
Well, Mike is here. We have a quorum anyway. And we'll note that Mike is here.
He is
on-
present, he waved.
He waved. Okay, he's there. Approval of the minutes of June 20th. They want a motion?
I wasn't here. You don't have enough.
We have, you and I were here, and Mike.
I can make a motion to approve the minutes as
Okay.
written.
All right. Does Mike want to second it?
Mike, would you like to second the minutes?
We have to have a quorum in the room to conduct the meeting.
You
Once
have a form.
we have a quorum, so we can conduct this. Mike?
Can you
wanna-
hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes. All right, something was wrong, but yes, I second
You're
it.
second. Okay. Any corrections, errors, or omissions on the set of minutes? All right, let's do a roll call of the vote of the to approve the minutes. Scott,
I can't.
you weren't here, right?
I abstain.
Robert?
I abstain.
You abstain.
Okay. Margaret, yes. Bonnie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay, we've approved the minutes of the last meeting. Selectmen's report. Scott, do you have anything to report?
No, just getting yelled at about the meeting tomorrow morning. But we'll work on that tomorrow. We'll see.
When
Okay,
did that begin?
Just tomorrow.
Tomorrow is the first time.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything on the agenda. Crisis.
the only correspondence received by the planning board was a letter of request, wanting to know if we were interested in talking about economic development. They have a committee down in Thornton, town of Thornton, and they're reaching out to surrounding towns to see if they want to have any input or be involved in that process or ask any questions. So I didn't know if any of you wanted to have a conversation with the folks in Thornton or be involved in their process down there or whatever. It was just a friendly letter of inquiry, wondering if we wanted to. Any interest?
Interested, it would depend on the schedule.
Right, okay. I told the person who sent us the letter that we were meeting tonight, you know, this would be a good time if they wanted to come. So we don't have anybody here from Thornton, no. I told them we'd be here and this would be an opportunity to get our opinions on anything. So it was just, we don't have to, it's not a requirement, so it doesn't look like a lot of interest.
I think it's pretty full.
Yeah,
Just for clarity, they wanted to know if you wanted to have involvement with their process in their town?
just having an opinion of, you know, a lot of times there is such a thing as projects of regional impact. So it's not uncommon for neighboring towns to ask the other towns if you have any opinions about things.
So they reach out to us if they have one of those.
Yes. So, all right, we'll just say, well, thank you very much. If you want to attend our next meeting and ask us any questions about Woodstock, please do so, but we'll respectfully decline from involvement in their process. The status of Resnick paving, the paving is done. The letter was written to Union Bank to release what we asked for was to release 18,000 of the 20,000, keeping 2,000 aside for the shrubbery. The Union Bank, for whatever reason, took the hold off. He called it a hold. The bank called it a hold on it so that Mark has access to his money. The bank took the hold off the entire 20,000. Didn't leave 2,000 aside there with a hold. Mark resident said, well, I'm gonna do the shrubs. I'll do the shrubs. That's just the way the bank wanted.
So it's a dead issue.
So we were happy with the way the paving looked. We went down there and looked. So that occurred. At 6:15, we're going to have a discussion on land use regulations. So why don't we skip down to other business and public participation? Before that, we have a bit of time. So if there's anybody in the audience that wants to participate other than the discussion that's going to occur at 6:15, please raise your hand and do so.
It's
You
okay.
wait it, Jen? Okay.
Is it, I think it's
Yeah,
on
you
the
can-
business. Yeah,
yeah, you,
except before you get involved with that other stuff, Rex, you might as well go for it.
yeah, might as well go for it.
I want to know what that letter was all about that you sent us about the pit not notifying the abutters.
The attorney suggested that we should put in writing the acknowledgement that you gave in prior consent.
Which we
You
don't have
agree.
a copy from your office yet. I like that. So all of your rules and regulations that you gave us conditional approval. We don't have any paperwork from the planning board as of yet. So we're still waiting for that.
So what paperwork?
Your terms and condition that you wanted us to follow your rules and regulations.
Are they on the permit?
They are not on the permit.
All right. They're in the minutes, and that's
Listen,
the
that ain't
official
gonna do us
record.
no good. We want it written.
The permit states about the maximum area of excavation. and
Right.
Not including the wetlands.
Right, okay. It's in the official minutes, the minutes that are approved are the official approval. We could give you a copy of that, copy of the minutes. But everything that is said at a public hearing becomes part of the conditions of an approval. And that is the attorney's opinion. You at that meeting agreed to notice the abutters prior to blasting. You said you would.
Yep.
And we received a notice that,
Can I just say something real quick?
yes,
I got a list of people, I personally went to their houses and notified,
right,
both days, we
Right.
blasted, April 15th and June 3rd. And before I came here, I went to the police department and
yes,
got the call log for both days, the police department was notified.
right,
So, Maple Lodge was notified, Emily Schneider, which is a brown house before there, which isn't even in a butter.
right,
She's not, she's not an actual butter. Connie Martell
yeah,
went to her place up
Right.
on Paradise Road and her place there next to the pit twice. She was not home.
mhm,
June 3rd, her son-in-law, whoever was there, and the blaster stayed with them and set up the seismograph.
right.
So I notified everybody that needed to be notified.
Two people at the last meeting
Well, John Kimball is
said
not
they
in the
did
butter.
not get notice.
John
And
Kimball
so-
is not in the butter.
John Kim.
Yes.
I mean, John Kimball is. Kevin
Kevin is
not.
not.
Kevin is not. So, the attorney suggested that just to send a letter, just stating that please, and nobody's gonna take any action about the two blasts, you know.
We're not allowed to talk to John Kimball because of the lawsuit. So
Right.
how are we
Oh,
supposed to
geez.
notify him? We're not supposed to
You
talk to
can-
him.
If she looks at her own minutes, she would know that, because that's what we said last
The-
time.
Our attorney told us, do not contact
All
him.
right,
Do
you-
not talk to him.
you
Kevin
can-
Foley or John Kimball.
You
I
can,
think I think the whole thing is just notify the people what you're gonna blast and that's it, you know, no big deal.
you
Yeah.
can leave it,
How long before do you want us to notify them?
I mean, I don't know, what's
Yeah,
reasonable?
the
A couple
attorney
days, a
didn't
week,
have
or
any,
Like an hour?
the attorney
An
didn't,
hour before.
The
The-
blaster said that's all they're required to do.
the
Okay.
attorney did not say a week, 5
It-
days, 5 hours
You know,
or
just to be a
anything,
good
just
neighbor, it might be
notice
nice to
prior
do it the
to.
day before, you know what I mean? Send
So
it a blast.
let's stop right there, because they were gonna blast tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the blasting company called up the blaster and said that all the powder is put back 3 days, so.
Right, I know.
So they're not blasting.
Well, we're gonna
till
blast
Friday.
sometime next week.
Okay, well, if that's what you want us to say, that's what we'll do.
I think that's all,
I think that's,
all
I think
everybody's
that's
asking for.
fine, that's fine.
Yeah.
We're not making, we're not,
No, I'd say
Wait a
send a
second.
blast someday next week.
We are implying with that letter that
Right.
he's required to do
he
that.
is
And
required.
He needs to have
Absolutely.
his attorney sue us because he's not
He
required.
is
Sue everybody.
required.
No, he's not.
He is,
Not at all.
he
You're trying to
absolutely
say
is.
You are,
It's
you are
implied.
trying to say, because he agreed that he would do
Yes.
something beyond what the law says,
Yes,
that he is now bound by that.
yes,
No,
and that's the
I
truth.
think
That is
I
not
think
the
they're doing the right
That-
thing, letting people know.
that
they're
is the
blasted.
truth.
That's-
No, it is.
that's all.
The attorney said, and
you
this is a.
better get a better attorney.
This is the lesson, this is something to think about in our lives, you know, here at the planning board or anywhere. If you have a public hearing on something, I don't care where you go, and it's a public hearing, and it's a quasi judicial, it's a board, it's a, I mean, you could go to workers' comp, or you could go anywhere. If you go to the hearing and open your mouth and say, oh, I'll do that,
It's what
even though you don't have to do that, it's part of what you agreed to do. This is a lesson to learn, you know, in life. And that's basically what the attorney said. If the applicant agrees to do something, even if it's something they don't have to do, they agree to do it. And it becomes part of the hearing and part
But
of.
your
the
letter
hearing.
changes how he agreed to do it.
No,
And they did what they said they were gonna do. They sent somebody to the place
one
to
person
make the
got missed.
notification.
If one person gets missed, one,
Nobody was there to
it
notify.
only takes one.
Leave a note,
Geez,
stuff,
yeah,
no big
But
deal.
how do
I'll
you get,
write.
we can't contact him. So how do we contact him? He doesn't live next door. He lives out of town. How do we contact him if we're not allowed to?
Well, he said he might be there and get hit. Got-
Well, we can't-
If,
That's
you
the
know-
problem, ask the lawyer, if you can send a very anonymous letter, we would be blasting on this day just to.
No, they just covered it for us before they went to us.
No, I think that's all
So,
they
okay, we're
said.
gonna be blasting this week.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't
just
tell
do it that way. You don't have to say exactly at 10 a.m. or anything.
exactly, you'll be able to tell. They're not gonna tell you that probably. No, I-
You know, if I was you, I would send them a flyer. I would put a note on the windshield of the
I
car.
think you did the right
I
thing last
would,
time. You just do the same thing again.
I would
Perfect, thank you.
call them and
Goodbye.
leave a message on their
Yeah.
answer machine, something. I would send them an email,
She doesn't-
something,
she doesn't.
something. So, that's the only point that we're making.
Then I think we all know, no matter what you guys do, some of these people are not gonna be happy. I think everybody realizes that for sure. Come on.
All right. We have arrived at 6:15. And we put on the agenda suggesting that we have a discussion on land use regulations.
Is Jackie the person that's interested in being on the board? Oh, I
Yeah,
thought you
who-
might be. Oh,
Is there
yeah.
somebody in the audience? Okay, let's meet her, and did you bring your friend, or what? There were
No.
two of you that
I have Chris,
seemed
right?
interested. So, why don't you introduce yourself and explain to us why you might be interested, and we can explain to you what it entails and so forth.
Sure. My name is Christina Payne. I've been here about 8 years now. I own N32 on Main Street.
Uh-huh.
And I'm interested in what's going on around me. I'm gonna have a little bit of say in it.
Okay,
Here I am.
Where you live?
I own N32 on Main Street.
Oh, yeah.
great, great. And now your friend, was she also interested, even though she couldn't come tonight, or?
It's kind of backed out, so
Okay.
just got me for now.
All right. Do you have any questions of us, what it entails?
No, I think I'm on
No.
board.
Okay, all right. Yes, she's interested in becoming a member of the planning board.
That's why.
That's a, common sense is a good commodity.
Step down.
So do you want to take it under consideration, or does any board member want to make a motion to appoint her, or do we want to, interview
Do we have
her?
other applicants?
Do we get any other applicants on the website?
Not at this time.
We haven't gotten any yet.
Honest question, Bonnie.
Yes,
Did you get a letter of interest?
no, no.
I think that's what we've always done on this board.
Yeah. Let's do that. And, if you could just, put it in writing that I would like to be considered to be on the board and why, and maybe tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure.
And, we will distribute it and we will vote, next week, not next week, next month.
Where would I bring that in?
In the town office. All right, and sit in, so you can see, if you have the time, sit in so you can see what we do. All
My
right,
chair is empty.
okey doke, why don't we start in on the 6:15 discussion? We just thought every so many years, we really should take a look at the land use regulations we have. And do we have all the ones we need? And what does the public think? What do the residents of Woodstock think? Do they think we could benefit from additional regulations or not? And so we decided that just invite people in to hear opinions. The process is, if there's interest in pursuing further land use regulations, which can be a variety of things, we would, if we would hear that, and then we would work on it. We are members of North Country Council. They could perhaps help us. The attorney could probably perhaps help us. We could bring forward a draft, have a public hearing or two on it, and then it would be voted on at town meeting. So we're just asking. We haven't made up our minds. We're not proposing it, suggesting it. We seem to be pretty open-minded and on the fence about it ourselves. So that was what our thoughts were last month, was to bring the topic forward and see what people think. Anybody
What
want
do
to
people think?
say what they think? Anybody want to start?
I know what some
Introduce
people
yourself?
think already, but.
You wanna- Does anybody want to introduce themselves and give us any opinions or ask any questions, what it's all about?
I'm Jackie Wilson. I've lived here for almost 20 years and I keep having this recurring thought. And so about land use, and I'm definitely not well versed in land use regulations. I was on the Conservation Commission many years ago, so I'm familiar with those regulations, at least I was. But what I'm saying is I'm no expert, but my concern is I know, I'm thinking about zoning, and I know it's been brought up in our town many times before, and I'm familiar with the history of it. But I've been thinking about it for a couple of years. I was working up in Bethlehem for several years. And I've watched the whole battle that town has had with Casella Waste. Yeah, I see what's going on at Forest Lake. And I think as time goes on, we, like, as a society, will need more and more places to put our waste. And I really fear that Woodstock might be able to be one of those towns where it's proposed to have a landfill. I know we have like 87% of our land in national forest, and I know there's protections of our waterways. I'm not sure, maybe my concern is unfounded, but I was just thinking about zoning, because it's like, if you don't have zoning in place and someone comes in, you have really no ability to decline. And I just worry about that for our town. So I've been thinking about this for a couple of years. And on a different but related note, like I know like what used to be the Union Bank in town is now privately owned. And I understand all the housing pressure that people are under nowadays, but and I apologize to anyone if this person is in this room, but it looks really bad. It looks really bad to have those cinder blocks out there like that. And I just think it doesn't look great for our town. Like, people don't necessarily look at that and realize that's a resident's house, and they might think, what the heck is up with these cinder blocks? You know? I just wonder if zoning, or if maybe, I don't know if zoning's too official, or just some more regulations in place about where people can live, where they can't live. Like, how do we protect what we love about this town without having it be overregulated? That's just my concern.
Okay, thank you. Pat?
I'm gonna repeat what I repeated at the town meeting 2 years ago, the last time the zoning thing came up. I moved up here, and I try to emulate the place that I moved to, not where I came from. Now, if somebody pushes me the wrong way, my Boston attitude can go back. All right, but that's not the way I wanted you. And, you know, but we're one of the few towns that don't have zoning, but we don't have much, if any, land that's still available for sale. All right. The Fadden's own a whole bunch of land. Rex owns a whole bunch of land. Mike Donahue owns a whole bunch of land. I'm just a small landowner with 60 acres, but you know, I mean, but and the only piece that I know that the large parcel that's been up for sale is on Avery Farm Road, 200 acres. But that's all ledge. So I don't know what anybody, I don't know what the problem is. We're already here. We don't have anything else to sell. I mean, so, you know.
But current landowners could sell their land. I just see it happening all
Well, it's
around. Where you
theirs,
think,
so yeah, that's.
well, I know that,
Yeah.
that's their
It's
prerogative.
theirs.
Obviously it is, that's not my point. My point is that we think we have, you know, like, I raised my kids here, I couldn't pick a better place to raise my children. I'm confident, like, in the health of our environment, right? But if you don't have certain protections in place, that could change without you being like a willing consenter on that. And that's just,
Zoning and permitting can change when you're not a willing consenter too. There are places you can't park your own
right,
car
I
in
know,
your driveway if it's in full view. It has to be in a garage.
yeah,
What kind of mailbox you have. Millions of rules that
Right.
people that don't have any land want to throw at people that worked hard to buy
right.
a piece of land.
I understand that.
So
And I'm,
that's,
you know, I value my teeny tiny little postage stamp of land, like, I get
Right.
that, and I don't want people telling me what to do, and I'm not familiar with all the different levels of zoning. But I am saying that it's a concern of mine. You know, 50 years down the road, my kids want to live here. My son definitely plans on living here. I just want to protect from things like landfills.
Okay,
Igor
Igor?
Billy, and I have about over 30 years of experience in real estate and development, and lived in a city near Boston where I was very familiar, very much working on daily basis with zoning and regulations. And it's not about selling the land. It's about somebody owning a piece of real estate. And now, because there is no zoning, there's no regulations, that person can do anything with that land pretty much and turn it to something that neighbors may not like, but there is nothing to stop him. Point in case, which I haven't seen one favorable face to the self-storage across the street. Everyone I talked to would say, oh my God, what is going in there? And that wasn't a land sale. It was just somebody who owned the forest there and knocked it down and building storage units. So zoning would probably prevent that if there was a zoning against it. So some regulations, yeah, I came from socialist society. Any regulations, I hate it, believe me, I live with it. But some regulations may prevent and may protect this town, and I haven't been here long enough. It's a beautiful town, I love it, and something may protect it.
Problem is, you have two extremes. And nobody has that same line in the middle of where that some regulations are.
Right,
So
I agree, absolutely.
freedom is a valuable
Yeah,
thing. To
that's-
vote to give it up is hard to do.
That's,
What's good, what's necessarily good for metropolitan Boston isn't necessarily good for Woodstock, New Hampshire.
I agree.
Okay, and this town has overwhelmingly voted several times not to put zoning in.
it's been about,
I'm sorry?
It wasn't always overwhelming.
but yeah, no,
Okay,
it
you
was
might have one that
about,
wasn't, okay, but what everybody's trying to do to bring zoning in, they're waiting until more and more people move up here from Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, or someplace else that had zoning, and change this town. Now, I've only been here 17 years. I didn't grow up here, okay, but like I said, when I came here to try to emulate this community,
Me too.
okay, I didn't want to bring Boston here with me,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, Pat,
I'm not yelling at you.
I moved here for a reason from New York, because I love the character of New Hampshire. Like, there's a lot I like about it that is not New York. Political, regulatory, a lot. But I think I just
But
feel
the thing is,
Yes.
you moved here to get away from all that. You're away from it. Now you want to change
Well,
it.
But can you hear my concern?
I've seen what happens when
What would we
people,
do if a landowner said to Casella, come on in, I'll send you my land?
the,
they worked hard to buy that property. It's theirs.
And then
They
the
get to do
landfill
what they
leaches
want
out
with it.
and
That's the
it's-
idea. And
yeah.
if that's what they want to do, then they should have the right to do that. That's another view.
I-
You think that you should have the right to tell them what they can or can't do with their land. You think we should be able to go and tell the guy to get his cinder blocks out because you don't like the way it looks. He worked hard for his money. He bought his piece of
I
property.
don't dispute
It's
that.
his, but you want to tell him what to do. You don't, in this town, you don't have a right to do that. Unless you want to go knock on the door and, do it at a
But-
personal level. Do that
Except
all
it
you
wouldn't
want.
be personal if there were regulations in place. And I'll say again, I don't know what I'm
What's
talking
wrong with
about.
it being personal? Go tell him your feelings.
Well, I could do that, but like what
Why
I'm
not?
saying is the person would,
Do it
if we
early
had
in the
just
day.
say, like I said, I don't know about the different kinds of zoning and I completely own that. Right? Or but
Really
if
late.
we had zoning in place, the landowners, people would know that before they purchase something. I'm not asking to go back and do something. to
Well, you want
anyone
to
else.
create it for people that already own it. That's not before they buy it. You want to.
I'm not asking to put in zoning that makes the guy at Union Bank have to change what he's doing. I'm thinking ahead to the future.
do we have other, let's hear from
Yeah,
some
so-
other
yeah.
folks. Let's see. Anybody else want to express, Donna?
I'm Donna Wire, and I'm on my best behavior.
Don't worry about
I was gonna
that.
go by my notes, but this is a little different than I expected. But we had the select meeting on the 28th. They were saying that the government thinks we should have more businesses in town. And I'm wondering where they think we're gonna put them, and since we're talking about the government, do you think there's any chance that we're gonna lose a nearby national forest?
No.
And then how come the government, I don't think that they even know what this area is like.
When you
And
say
they
the
say we
government,
need
which,
more
I think
businesses.
she's talking federal.
Well, this is all, this all came from AHEAD. And sometimes it seems to me like they're not using AHEAD. Because they
Not
are
exactly.
talking about a development, over across the road. And it could end up being 60 units.
Mm.
And my concern, my biggest concern is the traffic on, well, this is like, I've heard people refer to it as Route 112 Raceway. And I know someone who grew up here, and she says, if we get more traffic, it's gonna break my heart, because I'm gonna have to sell my house, because I can't stand the traffic here. And now we're gonna get a 29 to 60 unit place. Doesn't make sense. And then they're telling us that the government thinks we should have more businesses. I don't understand it, because I don't understand where they're gonna go. And from my road, Russell Farm Road, to the stoplight, there are 50 turnarounds and pull-offs. This part of 112 isn't like up above Loon. This is a neighborhood.
Mhm.
So I was here tonight just to, maybe I could learn something about government regulations, but I don't know much about government regulations. And I've been fortunate enough not to have to study the Constitution. And I'm wondering how the government can tell us that we have to pay some of a neighbor's taxes. And that's what they're telling us about this 29 unit AHEAD place.
You wanna
We're
talk
gonna
about
have
the
to pay
bond?
some of their taxes. They would not tell us a percentage. Because I don't think they know
Yeah,
about the individual tax.
That particular project, does not come under, subdivision, review.
What comes under the
Um,
government, and they
Yes.
said, because they said the government says we need more
Yeah.
business.
And in,
This is your opportunity.
in the zoning, in the suggested zoning changes is workforce housing. The communities are supposed to be in their master plans and in their zoning ordinances.
They
and
talk
ordinances.
about.
The head does
traffic
not
in
bring
the
in
master
workforce.
plan.
They bring in people off a list
Right.
and they bring them into your town.
Right,
It is not workforce supporting. It is not gonna put jobs in businesses in this town. It's gonna bring in 60 families.
Might bring in a couple, but that's it.
And
Yeah.
maybe some of them will want a job,
do we know that?
but that's not
where
what a
that
head is
project
about.
Is that project gonna go forward? Do we know?
It probably will go forward.
This is your opportunity.
Well,
to ask-
the project, I think, unfortunately, there's so many opinions about who's gonna be there, who's not gonna be there. I mean, I can't, I'm hopeful that it'll be a great project. But, they have one in Littleton that's been successful. They, I have employees that live in the one. As workforce housing. As far as the town giving me anything else, that what we approved at the last meeting was that we would accept the bond for them to borrow the money, and all we are is capacity. It doesn't cost us any money. The only way you can look at it that it could cost us money is when they value the property. So say the apartment house one, it's worth $100,000 because they get X amount of revenue from every unit. And that's what makes it worth so much money. Well, this project might only be worth 95,000 because they don't get as much revenue because the rents aren't as high as project number one. So it's probably gonna be they'll probably get a little bit of less less of a property tax because the project's not gonna be valued as much as a privately operated commercial property.
Which is the choice of the town to do that. The town does not have to give a tax break to the property value,
Well,
but
that's
they
what
are
I thought.
choosing to
The
do that.
state does that. We don't do anything. The state values that property and we charge them what the state tells us to. We don't do anything. We don't give them the tax break. It's the state does that.
Does the state do approval on our property and, private property?
I don't know what to tell you. This is the way that you put in the form, like.
They know there's gonna be
Burton
more
Commons is the
expensive
same thing.
to the town.
You put in the form to the state, they have this machination that comes, spits out a value, and that's what they're gonna pay in tax.
So the,
Let me tell you the difference between Burton Common and a head. Burton Common is all elderly people.
But it's run by that.
It's all elderly people. This is not gonna be all elderly people.
No,
And as soon as our school gets inundated with 40 kids, the school wants $1 million every time there's one more kid in the school.
well, I just say, the
Okay,
school
so-
says they can make
so
40
this
people,
time,
no problem
we-
with it. Say, yeah.
We are gonna pay
This
for
is a
your
tough
decision.
subject.
We're gonna pay for your decision, yours, so.
it's a tough decision.
I mean, I hope
Um,
I support the project. I hope, I'm right, and the people that don't like it are wrong. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Rex, you
Scott,
have,
let me call a spade a spade. The people that are gonna benefit the most from this, the Woodstock Station and the other members of the White Mountain Attractions. That's who's gonna benefit from it,
so, Rex, you have a
If somebody
question?
wants to go to work.
if they want to go to work.
Rex, you have a comment?
Yeah.
The trouble is, nobody wants workforce housing. It's the problem.
So just a couple of things. As far as that, I don't think that, just my opinion, I don't think that 3 selectmen should decide the
That's a-
decision of the town. We should go to a town special meeting if need be. And if the people from the town want it, you get it. If the people from the town don't want it, it goes away. You can put it that way.
It was shady the way it was done in the beginning. It
So
was shady.
that was my second thing. I don't think that Jackie is really saying that we need zoning as such, but we do need to real stuff like what's happening over there in, and let the townspeople have their opinion on it versus 3 people.
I think that's a problem with all this, whether it's zoning or land use. Everybody wants what they want,
Well,
and it's not necessarily what other people want.
Well,
So it's a big, it's a big conflict.
if it went to a town vote, special meeting, and then there's no say, hey, Rex wants it, Jackie doesn't want it, or Jackie wants it, Rex doesn't want it. It's all on the ballot. You pull the ballots out. Hey, we've got 50 people that want it, 75 don't want it.
well, I think.
Let's regroup. So that's all I'm saying.
I think one of the benefits of having some oversight is that you have a public hearing and you gather opinions on the topic. It doesn't just happen. Unfortunately, in order to have site plan review, which can be a helpful planning tool, you have to have zoning. Now you can have a one zone, town's one zone, and have a uses by special exception, which is about the most minimalistic zoning you can get. But it gives you an opportunity to have some input, to know what's going on, to have some input, to perhaps do a little bit of education as to the fire and safety regulations and the sewer and water and the impacts on, somebody mentioned the schools. It's unfortunate that in order to have some sort of involvement, like you said, not just 3 selectmen who are elected by the voters, but to open it up to a bigger discussion, you need that word zoning. They call it land use regulation, but it's zoning. And in order to have, it can be minimalistic, it can be a temporary thing. There is such a thing as emergency zoning, an interim zoning. And what that is one district, and you say agriculture and residential can be there. Businesses of certain natures can be there by special exception. It can be pretty broad, one zone, but with a few little rules. And the ability to have site plan review, to actually see on paper what they have in mind, and ability to at least ask the question about the impact on schools, transportation, sewer, water, the environment, and so forth. The only way we can get site plan review is to
So
get
they don't, they buy,
that
my
basic-
question is are we, they can bypass the planning board?
right now, sure. We have, we have no say over the ahead project.
People can do whatever they
Yeah.
want, all within
Yeah.
reason, all they need is a building permit.
Who gives the permit?
The town gives a permit, but you don't,
Selectmen.
but we have to have reasons not to give a permit.
That's pretty hard to
Yes,
do.
you do.
And that's pretty
Yes,
hard to do.
yes, Yes.
I mean, if we're
Um,
following all the rules and
You gotta
regulations,
understand, if you wanna have freedom, you don't say, I'm gonna vote for zoning, because that takes away the landowner
No.
freedom.
Casey,
So then you
Yeah,
can't do what you want with your land.
so
Somebody else does.
we're always in here constantly for the pit, that it's been there for years. And this thing just blows through.
yes,
I mean,
Yes.
How does that happen?
earth excavation is heavily regulated, subdivision
Idiot.
is regulated.
But you just said that they went
But-
right over you.
they don't need
Because
a
they didn't have to do a
subdivision. They don't need
They don't need
subdivision
subdivision
So why don't they need a subdivision?
because it's a rental property.
because
There's
it's,
no ownership.
So if we put in a trailer park, we don't have to have subdivision.
No, you don't.
you don't.
That's what you're saying.
That's exactly
If
right.
it's.
No, that's
Yeah,
If-
they're opening a whole can of worms right now.
because you're subdividing land.
Subdividing
That's
land.
what- Anyway, that's something
They are
over
not
my head.
Well, I'm just saying.
It's over my
we
head.
go through a
I
trailer
don't know.
park,
It's over my head.
we don't need
It's,
subdivision.
it's
approval.
subdivision of land. It's.
But we're not
it's
subdividing.
taking
They're,
We're
one
not
I
subdividing.
lot
studied this thoroughly.
and it's.
They are
one
not
lot.
subdividing. You wanna have them follow rules of subdivision, but they are not a subdivision.
That's in your own minutes.
Yes, it is in 1 minute.
I have to,
The,
You want certain street widths, you want this and that that are
Exactly.
applied,
The
that are part of a subdivision
attorney
requirement.
is saying that your
Again,
particular,
it's your- sorry.
it isn't fair. I agree 1,000%. The way the head project is being done, the way Rex's project is being done, is going to serve the
Well, you
same
say those things,
type
but then you do totally
of
different things afterwards.
need, same type of need, but they're regulated differently. And subdivision is the division of a lot from one into more than one for sale, lease, rent, condominium conveyance. Period.
And that's not what they're doing with the trailer park.
When he has his, when Rex brings his
I'm not
project
bringing nothing to you. I'm not
forward,
bringing nothing to
He
you.
doesn't need to.
when he brings his, when he brings his project forward, if he does, then we have that discussion and we figure it out. You know, you have to get legal advice.
Well, there you
Is
go.
it or isn't it?
Oh,
Is it,
Jesus.
is it subdivision or isn't it?
No,
Currently-
We already gone over that with the state. We went through that before. I don't even know why that got brought up. It's not a subdivision. It is,
Depends upon, it depends upon the ownership and it depends upon how it's done.
I gotta learn to shut up, because I don't know what to talk about. Callers.
Hey, we could hear you, Mike, and that was some nice comments you just had. You wanna come down and say them in person instead of just doing it over the mismatch?
Hey,
Microphone?
everybody, let's, this is a tough thing to talk about. And it doesn't make sense to me. That Rex's idea and a head's idea are two different animals. It doesn't make any sense to me either. I'll be the first one to say it doesn't. But the lawyer's opinion and the law
On the picture.
says they are different. So that, you know, that's the problem. And we were talking about, we do have land available. We got a lot of land available. And in my own mind, when I heard the rumor that a certain parcel in town with wonderful access to 93 and perfectly, perfect size probably, maybe not, but a potential. The rumor was going around town that that was going to be a landfill. After they got driven out of Dalton, they were gonna come down and buy that particular parcel, and that's what they were gonna do with it. And it was a better location anyway, because it's closer to 93, and this is gonna be wonderful. Now, and then somebody said, well, that's just a rumor, what in the heck you listening to? But that rumor did circulate, and it could be. It could be. And that a property owner would have that right currently to do exactly that without us saying boo, without us doing anything. And that would be a shame. We are growing, and the reason 3 or 4 times in the zoning ordinance didn't make it. But we're in a different world here. We're in a different time here. We're growing fast. Look across town to the next town, how fast it's growing. And
And they
we are,
have zoning and permitting, and look at
Yes.
the mess it's in.
well, they're,
It's a disaster.
We
They don't
may
have
not-
water, they don't have sewerage. Go to the end of LeBrec Street and see what that guy did. Don't think zoning and permitting saves the world. All it does is
No, it isn't going
complicate it,
to.
it creates corruption, it creates opportunity for so
It
many
takes 6
different
months to get a
problem
building
areas.
permit.
Yeah.
6 to 8.
Yeah, no, it bogs things down. People, it costs money. It costs applicants money to put, it's much more complicated, and it does take longer. And potentially you might miss the market. But we're at an important juncture where we need to decide one way or the other. Do we want to have more tools in order to face whatever it is we're apt to be facing, or not? Or are we just gonna,
Many of the good things
Um,
that people think have happened in this town happened as a result of not having zoning and permitting. Your business is a classic
I think
example.
that's true.
Having a brewery in there,
Absolutely.
zoning and permitting would have kicked that out, and
absolutely.
all the different buildings you added on.
Yeah.
See, so,
Owning a street,
you know,
but you're making it look really good. I appreciate that.
there's.
Oh, that's just green dumb.
Yeah.
Oh, that
I mean,
too.
it's definitely, I think what
And-
Pat's saying, like, there's not a lot that people can do now. There's not much left. I think what you're talking about is worrying about your neighbors, what your neighbors.
We got a lot of land
Is
left,
it gonna be
a lot,
you
a
know,
lot.
pigsty, or I don't know, or junkyard or something? I mean, that's what I think we're talking about here. Or landfill or things like that. And I don't know, like I said, I have very mixed feelings.
Me
about the
too.
whole thing.
We all do. You can see pluses and minuses on both.
Yeah.
I mean, a landfill could pay every tax dollar in the town.
I know.
Those
But
things,
is it
you
worth it?
know, there's all kinds of different pros and cons.
I mean,
on
maybe,
everything
I
you
don't know
do.
what another example is,
My buddy moved out of Bethlehem because Casella was leaving. Casella was leaving and they paid most of the taxes on the town.
Yeah.
The tax rate in Bethlehem was very low because of Casella. Anytime the town of Bethlehem needed something, Casella bought it.
Does anybody have any other opinions, of anybody that hasn't said something yet? Bill?
May I push rewind and go right back to the beginning of this meeting? I saw this up on the website, land use regulations.
Right.
And just to draw a starting line, what regulations do we have in that?
The subdivision, that's.
Subdivision, shoreland protection, telecommunication, tower regulation, gravel pit
Floodplain.
regulation. Floodplain.
The big ones, the hardest ones are, I think the tough ones right now is the, what am I talking, the river one.
The
Floodplain.
shoreland
Shoreline
protection.
Protection Act. Now, that has put all, one side of Main Street in the Shoreline Protection Act. Like the riverside, all the buildings, all the businesses on that side. Anything you do on any of those buildings or to the lot is gonna have to go through the state. You know, 250 feet away from the river, I think that's a big one right now. Anything you do within 250 feet of one of these waterways, you have to, not that you can't do it, but you've got to jump through a couple of hoops to do it.
And on that though, I believe it goes further. I've spent some time on it and I spend a lot more time. And that's the class 4 and 5 streams.
Mhm.
You drive around here, it seems as if the town is unaware of a state land use regulation.
I've talked to the people at the state, Sarah, from that office. And they're calling what the Shoreline Protection Act covers in Woodstock, from all of the Pemming, all the way through, and Wash River going up to where it meets 118, where Levelbrook comes in. To them, that's what the Shoreline Protection Act covers.
And that may be, but there is a very objective, no discussion in determining what are the class 4 and 5 rivers.
Sure.
And we do have, I forget how many miles of that. And I did say at a select board meeting that I would work on it.
Yeah.
And I have found a website through Granite, which is a website, and it's all plotted out on it. But it's going to take me quite a while to put that together. And I'm not sure we're even aware of what the state is saying we need to do. And at some point, it becomes incumbent on the town to recognize that the state has regulations, but they simply don't have the people to go out and drive the roads to see what's going on. And it's the same with this town. I'm not sure. I think when the town wanders occasionally and takes a look at what is happening with an eye toward the ordinances, not against the individual and the regulation. It's easier to beg for forgiveness than ask
That's
for
exactly
permission.
right. And that's exactly what
And
happens.
somewhere we have to display that this is a town that would like to change that.
And that's the debate we need to have. And we're at a time, an important time in the town's history where we need to decide that.
I think it's gonna be a challenge to get through.
Bill?
I'm not saying I'm against it either, I'm just saying the use shall.
I'm not going for zoning.
Yeah.
I'm saying be aware of what you have,
Yeah.
be aware of what the state has, and accept it and enforce it.
You know, we are the planners. This group has been chosen to worry about the planning for the town. That's, in our charge, in our charter, that's what the state of New Hampshire RSA say. We are the ones that are supposed to worry about this. So in my mind, we're probably not doing our job, and we're probably amiss if we don't worry about it a little bit and look into it a little bit and bring forward something. And then the vote is either up or down, or amend it, or don't like it, or change it. But I think personally, I think we just can't sit around and do nothing about it. I think we gotta look into it and see what makes sense for us. And this was the start of the discussion. We're elected officials. What do you want us to do? You want us to do nothing, or do you want us to
would
try
work.
something? What does the majority want?
Well, to make the public understand too, that they do have the right to ask for variances on any of these rules, and we do have the authority to set aside the rules. So
If
do not
they come
think it's
before
all
us.
to make more rules and more things for people that, because I gotta tell you, when I sit here sometimes and hear the things that we're talking about, all I can think of is, I'm in my late 50s now. And I think back all the different things For example, driving rules, which you're representative of the state and I requested you to do something, nothing. A kid can't get a motorcycle license now when they turn 16 unless they take a class, which they can't get the class because enough classes are not offered for kids to get a license. Because people our age had to have some more rules and create things to not let the youngster do that what we did when we were kids. There are more ridiculous rules now. A kid that's 16 gets a ticket for the first time, loses his license for 3 weeks. Flat out loses it. That didn't happen with us, but it's our age group that voted all this kind of stuff in. Gotta look at what we're doing and stop making rules for every simple little thing in the world because we want to exercise some power and we want to throw things at people and make them do what we want them to do. That's not freedom. And we're taking it away every time we make one of these regulations. And there's no need for it. Kids aren't more stupid than we were when we were kids. They can freaking do the same things we did. But now you get a driver's license at 16, you can't even have 2 kids in the car with you. You gotta wait a year for that. There's so many ridiculous rules that we keep coming up with, and so many stupid things.
Those are state, so that's
Yeah.
gonna be
Well,
really hard.
Yeah, I agree. That's
Yeah,
something we
that's,
can't do. But you know, when you go, what's that?
It's too many boys.
I agree.
Yeah.
All
So
wanted to
does,
say.
does anyone else that hasn't spoken yet have any opinions? Either one of you
Like the
guys?
lawyers, there's an old saying, if you fall in a pit, okay, with a lawyer and 2 rattlesnakes, and you have a gun with 2 bullets, who do you shoot? The lawyer twice.
That's right. Well, I gotta say, it was great, but they weren't able to advertise, I tell you that.
Jackie?
I just have one more thought. It's not an opinion. There's nothing I'm saying I think should be done, but when I think about freedom and being told what I can and can't do, and I think of the number of residences that have been bought up more in Lincoln than here for Airbnb. I'm a teacher and I can tell you firsthand that there are students without good places to live, whose parents work for hourly wages, that have no affordable place to live. And I don't know what should be done. I don't know what should be done, but I definitely see that problem. And it just seems to me, you know, I'm lucky, I own a house, I have a good paying job, it's reliable. But not everybody is in the same fortunate position I am. So sometimes I think when we talk about freedoms, we think of it just as ourselves as individuals. But I, as a teacher, obviously am really concerned about the health of my community and for people who aren't as fortunate as I am. And I don't know what, you know, if I bought land and someone said, you can't turn that into an Airbnb, I would be like, it's rough, but like, but I wonder about that, because what about the people in our town? And if you get all like worst case scenario, typically the people that work in the tourism industry that are making hourly wages, just say they can't afford to live here anymore. And say our tourism industry collapses because there's no employees to work there. Then what reason do tourists even have to come here? I don't have a solution at all, but
Well, the
it's,
thing is, you're suggesting the community has to support them in a way that you're thinking. You could go support them right now. There's nothing preventing you from helping
Well-
anybody you want to help.
that's not really my point. Is I believe in working.
Okay.
I believe in working hard.
Yeah,
You know, I have a good work ethic.
right.
But I'm lucky that I have a job that supports my life, and I don't think that's so easy for other people right now. And I don't know.
No, it isn't.
When you become part of a community, you become part of a group.
The
And
problem,
and
the other problem
sometimes
is
you
that-
have to think about the whole, not only the individual rights.
problem today, you know, people don't want to work.
That, you're right, but there are people that do want to work.
I
My
just,
students' parents want to work.
I
They
just,
want to
I
live here.
Some of your salary.
just
whatever.
came back from a 4,000 mile trip. I went from here to Iowa to Minnesota, down to Kansas, through Tennessee and back up here. All right. And it's the same all the way across the country.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to work because Well, let's not get into the social crap about kids aren't like they used to be, okay? We grew up in a different time, okay? Back then, you know, I had 2,000 fathers. My father was a Boston cop. My father knew I did something wrong before I did. All right, and all I had to do was walk in the door and see his face, and I said, I'm getting my ass kicked. All right, that don't happen anymore. All right, everybody gets a trophy now. Nobody's taught to lose, so they think they're all entitled. Okay, so.
I hear you on all of that.
Freedom is really responsibility.
It is.
Because the freedom to do something and suffer the consequences, be it good or be it bad, that's your choice. That's, you know, and hopefully you've had enough either experience at a young age where you really piss somebody off, you get beaten up, but responsibility is really key. You work hard, you assume you should be able to benefit from working hard. And God bless you guys that have employment for people that want to live here. But your taxes are outrageous because of the school system. That school system needs to be looked at. It's crazy, crazy. The amount of money per student. I'm sorry, it's crazy.
If you compare the costs of what we spend per pupil to any other school our size in the state, we are right in line.
I would
I mean,
disagree.
look-
I would disagree.
Go look at
Wow.
the
I think this is going down.
Yeah,
Well,
it is.
Go on the
Going down,
DOE
yeah.
website, like you can see it on
Let's,
the DOE website.
Let's
It's
try.
like not, I'm not
This is
making
going
this up.
downhill.
Let's try to think
Somebody's
about,
gonna ask you how many kids are in your grade
Woodstock.
pretty soon.
I know, this is
They
going,
have, I'm well aware.
this is going south
And
on us.
I'm not,
you know,
sorry.
I don't know if I think about the ahead, I go back and forth, but
my
when we
take
talk
on,
about adding to our school's population, I mean, our school is too small and the population's shrinking.
Well, that's part of the
So
discussion.
get back some of our tax money.
Yeah.
That's not her, she's a
I know
teacher
that's
at the
not-
school.
I know that's not-
Leave her out of it.
I'm getting rich by being a teacher at Woodwood.
No, no.
But you have higher than the average income in town by being a teacher.
I know I do, and I'm well aware that the best thing I ever did was serve on the school board because it gave me much greater awareness of my community. And I don't think I should ask my community to pay more for me than what they themselves earn, and I understand that. But
so I
you
think
can't-
we have a mixed, mixed thoughts
I'm
here.
confused.
We have some, I kind of, if I had to categorize it,
Motion to
the
adjourn.
comments.
We have to see if there's anybody online that wants to make a
I'm not on the board anymore.
I think we've got, might not be 50-50, but
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
we've got, so Mike, is anybody else on, anybody else on?
We get lots of-
We have
We have several guests on Zoom.
Okay. How many guests do we have on Zoom? And do any of them want to give any opinions?
4, 5, 6, 5 or 6.
We have 5 or 6 that have tuned in on Zoom.
Oh, really?
Do any of you have any opinions or anything you want to add to the discussion?
Nothing here.
Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to add to this discussion?
Hey Bonnie, this is John Kimball. I'd like to thank everybody for showing up. For once, you have almost a full house in there.
Thank you, we do, thank you. Do you have anything to say with regard to this discussion? Anybody else on Zoom that has anything they want to add to the discussion? Okay, guess not. Anybody in the room that wants to add more to the discussion?
Why do you heard this?
All right, I think really we had a good cross section. I think we have some yeses and some nos and some in betweens. What's that? What'd you say?
Not that I'm stopping.
So I, where do we go from here?
Second of all.
I don't know.
First, you need to draft a letter of your expectation to Rex, so he has that, not some minutes, not from
Okay.
other things.
Also,
Yeah.
also,
Alright.
before we adjourn to, Bonnie, did they get the lot mergers? Did Judy get the copies
Yes.
of those? Okay.
Yes.
Because that was something just got dropped, that nobody thought of it, you know? what I mean?
Yeah, we did it. Margaret and I came over and did it.
Because we voted, we did those lot mergers.
All right.
They never done it.
Anything else
To
to
be
come before the meeting, before we do adjourn? Any other topic?
I was doing a search for something.
Anything else anybody wants to talk about before we adjourn?
Ridiculous.
Donna?
What's the difference between a forum and a hearing?
A hearing is, a legal,
Forums don't count.
forum. This is just a discussion. In fact, we call it discussion. We call it a discussion. And that's
No
exactly what
matter
we
how
want to
many
do.
people want one side,
Right.
when they leave, whoever's left can vote and decide. No, like we tried to get zoning on the warrant. And there was a forum. And almost everybody there except for
Increase the size of
one was for it. We left,
Adjustment.
and that was it.
That makes
Somebody
sense.
voted up.
Mhm.
You know, you were there.
Yes, I was.
So do you think that's right?
No.
Don't leave the meeting.
That's all I wanted.
No, I don't think that, I really don't think that's right to have a forum, a discussion, and everybody makes their opinion, and then the minute they leave, vote whatever, you decide whatever you want.
That's
No,
what you say.
we sincerely want input. Before we put a lot of work into it, when the majority doesn't want it, or there isn't any chance of getting a majority, then we wouldn't. But if it seems to be a 50-50, or seems like having a chance, it's our job to bring forward something
Would that be a public meeting?
that we
I mean,
think
it would have to be something.
we need. It's our job to bring, to
This
have the
board can't
discussion.
bring a warrant article to the floor. It has to be the select.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
Well,
that would be up to you to bring it to the select, and if you guys want to do it, I mean, we'll probably do it.
Well, at that meeting, there were two
Let people
selectmen.
vote.
the selectmen would put it on the warrant if an official board of the town, went through their process and had all their hearings and everything, and
But
people
it's gonna be
seem to
so
like it.
complicated, because what are you gonna say? It's gonna, these people can only have single family homes, or that could be an apartment building or not a commercial building in this section of town. I mean, I don't know where the whole thing goes.
Well,
I
why do
don't.
so many towns near us look so less junky? You go to,
You just gotta drive around and find it.
Main Street is
Say what you
really
do.
I think she did.
and it doesn't even matter if it's Franconia, they're right beside Moon Mountain. That's an attractive looking town. I don't know whether they have zoning or how much
They
zoning
do.
they have. but
Different
it's something
budget
to
than
look
we
at.
I will tell you, not, and again, I'm not saying yes or no. There's 126 towns in New Hampshire. Only 6 don't have zoning.
Right.
And
And
and those are the happiest towns.
And most,
Yeah, that is.
most of
I'll be
them
happy in about an
are,
hour.
most of them are much smaller than us, with less going on.
Scott's not going to attend, but he's going to sit.
That's right.
All right,
My own.
I just have a question. When you guys
Yes.
are planning board, and I'm probably the newest in town. here,
Yes.
Sitting in this room. You're planning board, planning.
yes,
You have the vision, the plan for this town, how
No.
you would like this town to
No.
look like in say 10, 20, 30 years when her son wants to live here? Can you answer his question? What my town's going to look like in 20 years, 30 years?
and
That's a
that,
great.
that's why this
Great point.
discussion is being had. We do have a master plan, and it's a fairly new one, and those are broad goals, and it's all, motherhood and apple pie and wonderful stuff. Good environment and quality of life and good education. It's just real broad. It's a real broad statement. It isn't very specific. You have to have a master plan, and we do have one, but it's all that flowery words,
But
it's not detailed.
in the last 30 years, we haven't run a sewer line anywhere other than a replacement line. We haven't added any water lines in any of the places that aren't served. I mean, you go to Lincoln and every single house, every single property in Lincoln is served by sewer and water provided by the town. Not this town, not even close.
There's no way this
There's
town can
no-
ever do that.
Lincoln did it. Yeah, there's a way.
Yeah,
it can be
they're
done,
not
but
as spread out
There's
as we
nothing
are.
being done. There is nothing.
We did, I think
No.
it was before my time, but they did Lost River Road about 10 years ago.
No, that was a rebuild. That's something that had already.
No, it was a brand
existed.
new line.
It was a brand new line where there was there already was a line. It was the rebuild of the existing line. Yes.
So
My
the
town
sewer
got
line,
looked up to town.
The sewer was new.
sewer line was never a Western Road at all.
Right.
That's new.
The water line we upgraded several years ago.
Oh, okay, my mistake.
So Lost River Road was new. That's way before me. You know, way before me.
You know, and
I got well and septic,
I went to labor with all the construction.
Everybody.
and no internet.
Yeah.
Lucky you.
it's,
I wouldn't drink Lincoln water, and I had a friend who's.
That's right. She's right. That was strictly the law.
She would come to my house to have an excellent well, actually, it's a real artesian well. She would come to my house and get water because she was sick whenever she drank the Lincoln water. Now they do, just buy their water and have a, tank.
might
If I
be,
go to a restaurant in Lincoln, I bring a bottle of Poland Spring. When they ask me why, they said we have water. I said, you have Lincoln water. It sucks.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm
Poland
not-
Spring is just horrible.
I'm just wondering,
That's toilet water.
I'm just wondering whether it'd be helpful to have a straw poll. How many in the room feel that it's something we should look at?
What, zoning?
Yes,
I don't know if the Z word was the right word to use, but
it,
Looks like a unanimous no,
No, I don't
Well, we're
understand
thinking-
zoning.
which is what we get every
I
time
think
we
it's
do it.
I think it's kind of a no.
I agree with the freedom and not having zoning, but, I would like to see that there is some kind of planning that,
I'd like to see more citizens.
the reason you keep saying zoning is land use regulations, and you notice we use that, land use regulations.
It's a softer word than zoning.
It's
But
zoning.
it's
I
the
just like to
same
know why other towns.
In order to have
Change the language.
much
Yeah,
more
try to sneak it
regulation
through a
than we
different
have
way.
right now, you have to say you have the Z word. To have much more than we got now. You have a few little things, but not much.
Right.
More than we got right now. We have to get the Z word before we can have much more and control or regulation. Those are negative sounding words.
it's so tough, it's so difficult, because it's, everybody has personal opinion, everybody is
Exactly.
interested.
That's exactly.
Like if you had the owner of the log home that the self-storage unit is being built, he would be all for zoning because they would prevent that,
Yeah.
you
It
know?
looks like an airport.
Exactly, so, everybody has their own little chip in it, I mean, if you put the zoning and you don't allow Rex to put a pit there and blasting, he would be all against it, so,
Exactly.
everybody will look for their own interest in it, and
It's
it's very
especially difficult when you have so many people in town that get no town services of any kind. Nothing, but then the town wants to tell you what to do with your property too. It's not
They
gonna
don't have
float.
Lincoln water.
I live on a public road and I don't get town services.
There you
Yours
go.
is private.
No, my road is public.
Oh, that's right, it's a class six.
I have to
That's
plow
right,
it
it's a class
myself.
six.
The town doesn't even plow
I'm
my
I'm
road.
maintained
They
road,
own
that's
it.
right.
Yeah, but that.
I thought we were
that's used
adjourning.
by a hefty truck.
Anything else?
That's what I said.
We're adjourned.
Motion to adjourn, adjourn.
Adjourn.
This has been.
I think
This has been great.
It's been
Entertaining.
exhilarating.